Fresh start. Screw that. I don't want a fresh start. I want to be remembered. And what better place to become a legend in your own mind than college? Union, a private Baptist university located in Jackson, Tennessee, the heart of the Bible Belt, would be where I set my goal in motion. I enrolled in Union not because I wanted to, but because my father taught at another Baptist university that participated in what they called the Baptist Consortium. Bottom line, I got to go to school for $3 a semester hour. Now, I would have rather attended a large state university, but instead I was going to attend a tiny 95% Republican one. Undaunted by this conservative challenge, I decided to think of Union as a large Catholic school. With lots of dirty Catholic schoolgirls, just waiting for Mr. Wrong so they could feel, oh, so right. My parents had unwittingly helped me in my endeavor by moving the summer before I started Union. You see, they couldn't sell their house, and while it remained on the market, I lived there. As my first semester began, I was living a dream. There was a party every night. The house and the activities in it soon became the talk of the campus, and as it turns out, Baptist girls are a lot like dirty Catholic schoolgirls. Almost daily, I had girls ask me about the house and if they could come over. It was the place to be, and I was the king of the castle. And as king, I was entitled to whatever I wanted. And what I wanted was women. Now, this behavior was a futile attempt to exorcise the demons of my father asking me if I was a homosexual. Most of the women were agreeable, and they were very polite about my lack of experience and stamina. As for the ones that weren't, well, that's nothing that a little more alcohol wouldn't fix. They knew what this house was all about, right? They knew what they were getting into. Right? As my friends and I continued to party, we began to feel that alcohol wasn't enough. So we experimented with other recreational drugs and eventually settled on marijuana. I quickly realized I could not afford this lifestyle. And then I thought, what would be better than growing and selling my own marijuana? Well, I talked with a few friends, and then he found a friend, and there was a guy who knew a friend that would sell us a couple of plants. And from this humble beginning, my agricultural career began. Now, I knew the traffic in the house wouldn't be conducive to growing the plants, so we found a secluded place that would be perfect. Our little plants did quite well, and as we could afford it, we bought more. Until eventually, we had just over 100 plants. Of course, our crop did attract unwanted attention, and one night my friend and I were beat up by some jocks in an effort to procure the location of our plants. Now, you would think after hobbling around with a swollen knee, bruised ribs, and a black eye, I would realize I needed to change. Nope. I took the Marine attitude. If it doesn't kill ya, it makes you stronger. Well, I was going to show those jocks. So the parties got more frequent and more outrageous. However, my friends and I still wanted more. We eventually turned to thrill crimes to satisfy our hunger for attention and to give us a high. I never hurt anyone physically, and we never took any weapons with us on our excursions. But we did break into a few houses, the bar at the local country club, a mom and pop convenience store. I felt invincible. I wanted to be remembered, and at this moment, I felt like a mafia boss. In charge, feared, and known. Little did I know, my tangled web was beginning to unravel. A girl who had not consented to being with me had gone to the police. And of course, the owners of the homes, the bar, and the convenience store had gone to the police. By this time, the house finally sold and my parents were in town to get the last of their things and to move me out. Unbeknownst to them, they were about to be bushwhacked by one of the worst situations you could ever find your child in. I'd gone outside to take a bag of trash to the trash can, and as I looked down the street, I saw the police car turn and head towards my house. I knew they were coming for me. I really didn't even think about running, although I guess I could have. I just put the trash in the can and waited. The police car pulled into the driveway and the two officers got out. "Are you McLauer?" "Yes." "You're going to need to come with us." They put me in handcuffs and then asked, "Your parents home?" "Yes." "Let's go tell them." They escorted me inside. I told my parents I was being arrested. My mother tried not to cry, but she couldn't help it. My father said simply, "Okay." When we arrived at the station, I was read my rights, fingerprinted, told not to smile for my mugshot, stripped of all personal items, including my belt, and taken to a pink cell. By this time, I had shaved my head for a role that I was playing, lost a lot of weight because of all the drinking and the drugs, and without my belt, my pants were falling down. As I entered my cell, I must have looked like a cross between a drug addict and a member of the Ku Klux Klan. But I felt more like a cancer patient. I sat down in my metal bunk, looked around the cell. There was nothing but an exposed toilet in the corner and a sink beside it. Other than that, nothing. Not a word, not a thought, not a sound. The silence was deafening. There was nothing to hide me from my past or my feelings. I was going to lose it. I had to do something, so I began to tap on the cinder block wall. And then the person in the next cell began to tap. I would tap, he would tap, 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 tap. Our pseudo-conversation eventually stopped, and I was once again left with nothing. As I laid on my metal bunk bed, I began to cry. I cried for the girls I had hurt, cried for the friends I hurt, cried for hurting my parents. I just cried. And in this moment of nothingness, I prayed the most honest prayer of my life. God, help me. Then an officer came to the cell and told me I could go. My parents had taken money from selling the house and bailed me out. They took me to an apartment they had rented for me, fed me, let me take a shower and sleep. In the morning, they came over to check on me. "Good morning. Well, how did you sleep?" This was obviously a rhetorical question because my mother didn't wait for an answer. "Well, good. Your dad and I had talked about it, and we're not going to tell your brother about this. He couldn't handle it. He idolizes you, you know." She looked at my father. "Son, I was always taught when you leave somewhere, make sure you're welcome back. And after this, I'm not so sure that we are." And with his words, the reality of what was to come began to sink in. I would have to go to court and face charges for all these things. My dad called his lawyer friend, and he agreed to represent me. And during this time, I just continued to pray my prayer. God, help me. My father came to me during this, and he said, "Just tell the truth. No matter what that is, it's the easiest way out." I talked with my lawyer and other lawyers and continued to pray my prayer. The lawyers eventually worked out a plea bargain, and because I was a first-time offender, I got a light sentence. 3 months jail time and a 1.5 years of community service. After completing my sentence, I got a clean slate, a fresh start. But that scared young man who, amongst the tears, prayed, "God help me," is always there, poking, prodding, whispering. Remember, always remember.